Welcome to AI Paper Podcasts, where we dive deep into the research that's really pushing the boundaries in artificial intelligence. Have you ever, been typing a prompt into an LLM, something pretty straightforward, and the output just feels a bit weird? Like it grabbed onto some tiny, almost irrelevant detail and just ran with it, producing something that feels forced or maybe even nonsensical, and you're left wondering, why on earth did it connect that?
Yeah, that feeling is definitely familiar to anyone who uses these models a lot. It's that, wait, what moment?
Exactly. Well, today we're digging into a really important paper that actually puts a name to this and measures it properly. We're looking at, does liking yellow imply driving a school bus? Semantic Leakage in Language Models. It's a NAACL 2025 paper from researchers at the University of Washington and AI2.
A great title, by the way. Really captures the absurdity sometimes.
It does. Okay, so for the quick version, the key thing this paper introduces is this idea of semantic leakage. Basically, it's when an LLM accidentally generates text that's way too strongly connected, semantically speaking, to words in your prompt that shouldn't really matter. It's this undue influence that can make outputs feel forced or strange, affecting how the model behaves. And the researchers tested this across 13 major models, GPTs, LaMAs, and found it everywhere, across different languages too. And here's a really interesting bit. The model's fine-tuned with instructions. They actually leak more.
Right, which is kind of the opposite of what you might expect initially.
It is. So this whole discovery has some pretty big implications for understanding AI bias and just, getting these models to behave predictably. Our mission today in this deep dive is to really unpack this concept, semantic leakage. We'll explore how common it is, how they actually measured it, which is fascinating in itself, and then crucially, talk about what it means practically for AI researchers, ML engineers, really anyone trying to get reliable results from these systems. Get ready for some aha moments, I think.
Definitely. It's a subtle but really pervasive effect.
Okay, so let's unpack that definition a bit more. You mentioned undue influence. Can you break down what semantic leakage really is?
Sure. It's essentially about the model drawing semantic connections, associations between words that are just unnecessary or illogical for the specific task. It picks up on a word in the input, finds related concepts in its training data, and then inappropriately injects those concepts into the output. The paper calls it undue influence because the strength of that semantic link between the irrelevant input word and the output is way stronger than you'd naturally expect. And yeah, as you said, the outputs can feel forced, overwrought, even nonsensical, like it's trying too hard to make a connection that isn't really there, almost like a kid's story logic sometimes.
That forced feeling really rings true. Could you give us some of those concrete examples from the paper? Because they really make it click, don't they?
They absolutely do. The title example is perfect. Prompt. He likes yellow. He works as a GPT-4o, often jumps to school bus driver.
Yeah.
Clearly, yellow is the leaking concept there, forcing an occupation that makes no logical sense based only on liking a color. Or this one. He likes ants. His favorite food is. The model came up with ant-covered chocolate, a unique delicacy.
Oh, wow. Ant-covered chocolate. Seriously.
Seriously. Hilarious, but totally useless if you actually wanted a food suggestion, right?
Yeah.
That's definitely not something you'd recommend.
Yeah, why not?
And idioms are another tricky area. It was her turn to speak, and she got cold feet. A day later, she stayed at home because she got hurt in her. And the model finishes with ankle.
So it took the figurative cold feet and made it literal.
Exactly. It connected the idiom about fear to a literal body part. And even subtler ones happen, like he likes koalas, his favorite food is...
Let me guess. Eucalyptus leaves.
You got it. Eucalyptus leaves. The model's knowledge about koalas just leaked straight into the person's preference. Total non sequitur for a human.
Those are incredibly clear examples of things going awry. So yeah, this isn't just some quirky artifact. It feels like something that could genuinely mess things up for people building apps on these models, right?
Precisely. If you're relying on an LLM for, say, summarizing information, generating code, or even just drafting emails, this kind of leakage could introduce errors, inject irrelevant details, or create outputs that are subtly biased in ways you didn't intend. It undermines reliability.
Okay, so seeing those examples, it's clear it's a real thing, but how did they actually measure it systematically? You said they put numbers on it. That sounds tricky.
It is tricky, but their methodology was quite clever. They set up a controlled experiment. The core idea is comparing pairs of prompts. You have a control prompt, just a basic sentence completion task like his favorite food is. Simple enough. Then you have a test prompt. It's basically the same, but you add an extra sentence introducing an unrelated concept, like our koala example. He likes koalas. his favorite food is.
Okay, so you've got the baseline and the one with the potential leaky word. Then what?
Then you generate text from both prompts using the same model, and you compare the outputs. The key question is the output from the test prompt more semantically similar to that unrelated concept koalas, in this case, than the output from the control prompt?
Ah, I see. You're checking if adding koalas made the generated food sound more koala-like, metaphorically speaking.
Exactly, and they quantify this with their main metric, the leak rate. It's simply the percentage of times the test generation is indeed more similar to the leaking concept than the control generation. If there's no leakage, you'd expect a 50% rate, right? Just random chance. Anything significantly above 50% means leakage is happening.
And how did they measure that similarity? That still sounds a bit subjective.
Good question. They used a two-pronged approach. First, automatic evaluation using standard embedding techniques. Think BERT score, sentence BERT, the OpenAI embedding models. These methods turn the text into vectors, numbers, and you can calculate the cosine similarity between the generated text and the concept word.
Okay, so math helps make it objective.
Right, but they didn't stop there. Crucially, they also used human evaluation. They had annotators look at pairs of generations, one control, one test, and judge which one felt more related to the concept.
Which is super important for validating that the automatic metrics actually capture what humans perceive.
Absolutely. And the human judgments largely lined up with the automatic scores, which gives a lot of confidence in the overall findings.
So they've got this solid method for measuring it. What did they find? How widespread is this leakage problem across the big name models?
Well, here's a kicker. It was basically universal in the models they tested, all 13 of them. We're talking GPT 3.5, GPT-4, the newer GPT-4o, various LMA2 and LIMA3 models, all showed semantic leakage.
All of them. Wow.
Yep. And not just barely above the 50% random mark. The leak rates were significantly higher, statistically speaking. Like the p-values were astronomically small, confirming it's a real consistent effect, that undue influence is definitely there.
Can you give a couple more examples across different models just to see the variety?
Sure. Let's see. Ellen MA2 7B chat, given John likes tigers. John's father is working as a sometimes finished with tiger in a zoo.
Okay, that's creative, I guess, but wrong.
Definitely wrong. Or LMA3 70B instruct. Forrest has a friend. The friend's hobby is gardening to her home in a way which makes it completed with Forrest. Again, forcing the connection. GPT-4 could take a simple idiom like the woman was as cold as ice and spin out this whole long thing about cryogenics.
Whoa, like a deep dive into freezing science from just a common phrase.
Exactly. And GPT-4o, if prompted, she is a cinema lover her nephew was accused of, often generating pirating movies. A plausible connection, maybe, but clearly influenced by cinema lover.
That range is really something, but you mentioned something earlier that really caught my ear, that some models leak more than others, and maybe not the ones we'd expect.
Yes, that was one of the most surprising findings. The instruction-tuned models consistently leak more than their base counterparts, so GPT-4 leaked more than GPT-4 and 3.5, and the Llama Chat, or instruct versions, leaked significantly more than the base Llama models.
That feels backwards, doesn't it? Aren't instruction-tuned models supposed to be better at following instructions and staying on topic?
You'd think so. The paper hypothesizes about why this might be. Perhaps the instruction tuning process, which encourages models to be more helpful, detailed, and less generic. Well, perhaps it inadvertently makes them more likely to grab onto these semantic cues, even irrelevant ones, in an effort to provide richer content. It's a potential side effect of making them better conversationalists.
Huh. A trade-off between helpfulness and, well, staying grounded. What about other factors, like temperature? Did that play a role?
It did, but mainly for the Llama models. They found that lower temperatures, so settings that make the output more deterministic and less random, like greedy sampling, actually led to more semantic leakage in llamas.
More predictable output, more leakage? Interesting.
Yeah. For the GPT models, though, the trend with temperature wasn't as clear or consistent, so it varies. And just to reiterate on the human validation, the human annotators generally agreed with what the automatic metrics were showing. They had good inter-annotator agreement, adding weight to the whole study.
Okay, so it's widespread. Instruction tuning makes it worse. This raises another big question. Is this just an English language thing, or does it happen in other languages too?
Great question. And no, it's not just English. They specifically tested this in multilingual and cross-lingual settings. They use Hebrew and Chinese prompts, and also mixed language prompts like Hebrew-English. With GPT-4o, the human evaluations showed leakage rates in Hebrew and Chinese that were pretty similar to English in the 70–80% range.
So the koala example worked in translation too.
Pretty much. He likes koalas. His favorite food is translated into Hebrew or Chinese, still often led to the model generating eucalyptus leaves in that language. The Llama models had a bit more trouble generating high-quality Hebrew, but they still showed clear leakage in Chinese. So it really does seem to be a more fundamental aspect of how these models work, not tied to one specific language.
Okay, a global phenomenon. What about different types of tasks? We've talked about sentence completion, but does it creep in when you ask for something more creative, like writing a story or maybe a recipe?
Oh, absolutely. And it can really shape the entire creative output in sometimes subtle, sometimes obvious ways. The paper gives great examples. They asked GPT-4 to write a story about a child named Coral. The result: the story was suddenly full of oceans, seashells, waves, dolphins, all seaside imagery.
Just because of the name Coral?
Just because of the name. Same thing happened with a character named Melody. The story generated was all about music, violins, singing birds. The name itself leaked its semantic meaning into the entire narrative theme.
Wow. And recipes, how does it show up there?
It's quite direct there, too. Ask for a recipe using a blue pan, and GPT-4o is likely to suggest blueberry pancakes.
Okay, I can see the blue connection.
Right. Ask for a recipe for a white pan, it might suggest chicken Alfredo. A red pan. Suddenly, ingredients like red peppers, tomatoes, paprika become much more frequent in the output. So even a simple descriptive detail like the color of a pan, which should be totally irrelevant to the ingredients, significantly steers the creative generation. It forces these connections.
Okay, this is clearly more than just a minor glitch. So let's get to the core of it. Why does this matter? Beyond being a weird quirk, why should people building and using AI systems care deeply about semantic leakage?
Well, the paper makes a really compelling argument that semantic leakage might be closely related to, or even the kind of umbrella concept for, many other biases we already talk about in LLMs.
How so? Like gender or racial bias?
Exactly. Think about it. We know models can exhibit gender bias, right? Like associating nurse more strongly with female pronouns. The paper suggests this is essentially a form of semantic leakage. The pronoun she leaks the concept female, which unduly influences the choice of occupation. So semantic leakage might be this broader phenomenon capturing how any learned association, not just socially sensitive ones, can get improperly triggered and influence the output. Studying it might help us understand and maybe mitigate a wider range of biases.
That's a really powerful idea, potentially unifying different types of bias under one mechanism. What about the more immediate practical problems it causes?
On a practical level, it can definitely degrade performance. The paper mentions this idea of an overshadowing mechanism. A strong but irrelevant semantic signal in the prompt can actually overshadow the more important parts of your instruction, leading the model to ignore what you actually asked for and give a wrong answer.
So the leakage noise drowns out the useful signal.
Kind of, yeah. It can also be exploited. Think about adversarial attacks. Someone could potentially craft prompts with specific leaky words designed to subtly nudge the model towards undesirable or incorrect outputs. And as we saw with the creative examples, for any task that requires genuine originality or diverse outputs brainstorming, story writing this leakage is a real problem. It forces predictable, often nonsensical connections and stifles creativity.
Right. So understanding this isn't just academic, it feels essential for building AI that's actually reliable, safe, and does what we intend it to do.
Exactly. It's about predictability and control.
Okay, so to wrap up this deep dive, we've explored semantic leakage, this really subtle, but as we've heard, incredibly common way that LLMs get sidetracked by irrelevant words in prompts, weaving those concepts into their answers. It's a fascinating look into how these models learn associations, and it impacts everything from simple Q&A to creative writing, and it happens across languages.
And that finding about instruction-tuned models leaking more is, I think, really critical. It points to this potential tension, this trade-off between making models more informative and conversational and preventing these unintended semantic side trips. It definitely highlights a huge area for future work. How do we get the benefits of instruction tuning without amplifying this leakage? Making LLMs more robust against this is key.
Absolutely. So maybe the next time you get one of those head-scratcher outputs from an LLM, take a second look at your prompt. Ask yourself, was it just a random fluke? Or is there some word in there, some concept like liking yellow, that inadvertently sent the model down the path to school bus driver? It really pushes us to be more mindful about how these complex systems work under the hood and how we interact with them. What really stands out to you about semantic leakage after hearing this? How might it change the way you write prompts or even evaluate the models you use?
Food for thought, definitely.
That's it for this deep dive on AI Paper Podcasts. Until next time, keep digging into the fascinating world of AI.